What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. First of all, I want to thank you guys. We're just almost at 50 subscribers, so let's continue to grow the channel. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications for posts. I'm trying to typically post 1 to 2 videos a week, possibly sometimes 3. So also go ahead and like this video and drop a comment. Tell me what you guys want to see, whether it's more riding footage, more fishing footage, tutorials, how-tos, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and drop it down in the comments. Today I'm going to debunk a couple baitcaster reel myths that I keep seeing pop up on my social media, and if it's popping up on my social media, I know it's popping up on your social media. So I'm not gonna throw any brand under the bus, but there's certain reels that keep popping up, you know, in my TikToks, in my Instagram reels, and a lot of influencers are claiming that you don't bird's nest them, which I can't say 110% that you're not gonna get a bird's nest with it, or you will or not get a bird's nest with it, because I don't own one. But I just know from experience using a baitcaster that it's inevitable, guys. There is not a single baitcaster out there on the market that you do not have to fine tune, you don't have to adjust, and just be able to cast it out there and, you know, not bird's nested or not have any issues. So that's what today is about. I'm actually gonna give you guys a rundown on a baitcaster. So what we got here, we got a Lew's speed spool, or a Lew's speed spool. I'm gonna give you guys a rundown on exactly how to fine tune your reels, the orientation of things, where things are at on the reel, so you guys can be somewhat set up for success and somewhat know what you're doing when you get your baitcaster. All right, guys, so we're gonna get started. First of all, I want to clarify that this is a left-hand reel. So these baitcasters, they come left hand and right hand. So the typical traditional baitcaster is a right-hand reel. I have fished spinner rods and reels almost my whole life. So I did mainly saltwater fishing when I was younger, and a little bit of bass fishing here and there. It wasn't until recently that I got into bass fishing, and I love it. So this is definitely a necessary step. Well, I wouldn't say a necessary step, but once you get the hang of using one of these baitcasters, things get a lot easier. They're a lot easier to cast, a lot less fatigue, so on and so forth. So let's jump into it. First of all, you have this this is your drag lever right here, this star lever. So that's how you adjust your drag, the tension of which, how much tension you have to actually pull on the line to get it to come out. So I like to actually turn my drag down when I'm storing my rods and my reels. I just don't like the tension on the bearings personally. And then when I get out to, you know, the fishing pond or the pond that I'm fishing, I like to go ahead, crank the drag up. You don't gotta lock it down. I see a lot of people just lock their drag, and yeah, you'll still catch fish, but also you're gonna break off a lot too. Also, it's gonna really depend on what kind of cover you're fishing, what kind of line you're using. So I like to personally use 17-pound fluorocarbon. That's what I like to use personally. I feel like 15, you're gonna break off more often. Anything bigger than 20, it's just it's just too big of a line, in my personal opinion. I've fished braid, so like if you're putting braid on one of these, you're gonna want a lot thicker of a braid than your fluorocarbon line. So typically with braid, I would start at 30 pounds and go all the way up to 50. Depending on where you're fishing and what you're fishing, that's gonna dictate what kind of line you're using. Also, I see a lot of people use leaders on their braid, and it's not a bad idea, guys. It's really not. However, I personally just go straight to braid with my lures, and I have a great hookup ratio, 99% of the time at least. If the fish are being really, really finicky and it's super clear water, then I might throw, you know, a fluorocarbon leader on. But 9 times out of 10, I can get away with braid. Furthermore, going into the reel, this knob right here is your tension knob. So this is mainly what I adjust my reel with, is the tension knob. I almost never really touch the brakes very often. Your brakes are right on the other side right there. And guys, every single baitcaster is going to be slightly different. So don't take my word for it. You know, if you could have a different reel and you know your brake system is different than the one that I have. But this is just a general rundown. So typically I like to leave my brakes around 6 to 7, somewhere in that range. But guys, your spool tension knob is going to be your key adjustment on these. So what I like to do when I get my my lure rigged up, I'll hold the lure out and I'll release the spool, and I'll hold my thumb on it and I'll crank this tension knob up until it locks the bait into place. So where I can take my finger off the spool and the weight does not move at all. Once that happens, I keep I don't touch the spool at all, and I just release this spool tension knob just a little bit, very slowly, until I see my bait start to drop from the rod tip, just holding it up in the air. Once it starts to drop, typically your baitcaster is set up decently well. Another technique you guys are going to have to learn is how to thumb your spool correctly. So different baits, you have to throw them a little bit differently. So like if you're using like a heavier jig, like a 1/2 ounce jig up to a 1 ounce jig, you can actually, you can increase your spool tension a little bit. You're not going to want it as loose as, like, say, throwing a weightless worm. A weightless worm, you're going to have to loosen the spool tension knob because it's a lighter bait. That's typically when I notice that I have to actually thumb my spool. In my experiences, and I'm sure you guys are going to experience it as well, lighter baits are harder to throw with a baitcaster. So the heavier the bait, the easier this is actually going to be able to use. And to be frankly honest with you guys, you're not going to be able to, even if you get this thing set up exactly the way that you need to get it set up, you're not going to be able to go out there and fish it right off the bat and not have, some bird's nesting issues, possible respooling of the whole reel itself. I know I had to do that when I was first learning. It's very aggravating. I would definitely recommend starting with fluorocarbon. It's a lot easier to get bird's nests out of. So, but back to the topic we were talking about, the lighter the lure, the more you're gonna have to thumb the spool, and the more you're gonna have to, be cast a little bit more gentle than you would, say, a heavier lure. If I were you guys, I would definitely get one of these first, and then either go out to your backyard, go out to your front yard, go somewhere where you can set up some cups or, a trash can or some object that you can aim at. Just tie on a weight, like a 1/2 ounce weight, no hooks, just a weight, and practice your casting. Try different weights out. You can go down to an 1/8 ounce to mimic more of like a worm on a Texas rig, and then you can go up to like a 1/2 ounce all the way up to an ounce weight to practice throwing those heavier lures. So once you guys get that down, that's when I would focus more on my accuracy. So I would try and set up different things to where you can cast to, and dial in your accuracy, because that's one of the hardest parts about throwing one of these, is casting it accurately and not getting a bird's nest. So I'm also going to show you guys how to get a bird's nest out in a future video. I don't even have this on a rod right now. It's super simple. Basically a rundown. When you do bird's nest one of these, you're going to pull a little bit of the line out until you reach a knot, and then you're going to put your finger on the spool and you're actually going to reel it. Put some tension on the spool and you reel it in a couple times, and then continue to pull more line out, and just repeat the process until the knots are out. But guys, these are awesome to use. I definitely recommend getting one. They cast great. They cast further than a traditional spinning reel will, and a lot easier. And you will not get fatigued while using one of these. It's a lighter setup. Typically, the ratios are higher, so as you're reeling, the line's going to come into the spool a lot quicker than a lot of your spinners. And just the fact that you don't have to sit there and flip a bail open every single time you cast. It's super quick. You can cover a lot of water with these. So I definitely recommend it. I definitely recommend Lew's products. I know a lot of people that I know have bought in like the kicking their bass Lew's combos. That's a nice, affordable, cheap option that you guys can, look at. There's a couple good setups at Bass Pro from Lew's as well. I forget the name, Crush, I believe it is, but you guys can go look at them. Basically, I wouldn't go drop a bunch of money on, a Shimano right off the bat. I would get something a little bit more on the cheaper side to make sure that you're going to actually like it, something that you can practice with. And I wouldn't put very expensive line on either when you're first learning how. I would definitely put on some monofilament, something along that, maybe like 20-pound mono. You're gonna want a thicker line to practice with when you're first learning, and then you can kind of tone it down at that point, start putting some fluorocarbon on there, or switch over to braid, whatever it may be. But guys, if you have any questions or you guys wanna see anything, drop it down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and turn on your notifications, because I'm putting out 2 to 3 videos a week, like I said. And guys, I'm here for you. So anything that you guys want to know or want to see, drop it down in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.